Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Daniel Jones. Quick little 20-minute video breaking down 3 reasons why we think he could be the next Josh Allen of 2021 with the big jump in development he took to really become a really good franchise quarterback and someone that the Buffalo Bills can rely on and feel confident with moving forward. We, all, as Giants fans, want Daniel Jones to be that guy. We know he has the tangible traits. He can run, he can throw, he has decent accuracy, he has good downfield accuracy. The Giants just have done very little to put the right pieces around him when it comes to play caller, bad pass blocking scheme, no playmakers. They really haven't done him much. And I really think this offseason is an important time for him and important for the Giants management to get it right. You know, give him the pieces that he needs to finally take a step forward and show us he can be a franchise caliber quarterback. A lot of people think he can be, but the question is, will they do what needs to be done so he really can be? Before we dive into Daniel Jones, these 3 reasons why we think he can be the Josh Allen of 2021. Anthony, my friend, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. As everyone knows, I'm a huge proponent of Daniel Jones as the New York Giants franchise quarterback. I do believe in Daniel Jones. I don't think he's perfect. I see a lot of flaws, and I definitely call them out. But overall, I'm high on Daniel Jones. I'm a big fan of him. I think there's a lot to work with. You know, on draft night, no, I didn't feel that way, but I've come around. Okay. Actually, you know, I'll even say leading into the draft, I was not as low on Daniel Jones as a lot of Giants fans were. I just was not as high on him as the Giants were. Right. A lot of Giants fans were saying he's a second round, third round. Some were even saying 4th, 5th round prospect. He should not go in the first round. He's not a good quarterback, and he would be an instant bust. Well, when I watched the film, I watched a lot of Duke film, which was kind of a chore leading into that NFL draft. I actually came away with a different perspective. I thought there is at least a good quarterback here to be molded. You know, I didn't think he was the best prospect in the draft, and I didn't think that, you know, he would instantly step in and be an impact player for the Giants, which, you know, he wasn't. He struggled a lot as a rookie. His first game, you know, he stepped in as an impact player, but he struggled a lot as a rookie. I just thought there was, like, I was higher on him. I thought there was a lot to work with. I just wasn't. It wasn't like something I had conviction for where I would say take him with the 6th overall pick. You know, if we were picking 17, which we were, but had he been there at 17, I'm like, okay, perfect. That is a perfect pick. That's where I thought he belonged, somewhere in that second half of the first round. So the Giants reached on him a little bit in terms of my evaluation. Whatever, it doesn't matter. That's your quarterback. That's your guy. You take him at number 6. So I agree with that now. At the time, I was upset because I was a huge Josh Allen fan. I really wanted him. The edge rusher, not the quarterback Josh Allen, which we just mentioned. The edge rusher Josh Allen. So yeah, I was upset, but I kind of moved on pretty quickly because I was like, well, I do think that he is a good quarterback. I just didn't like where they took him. But now, 2 years in, I still feel pretty similar. I feel like he was a first-round talent, but he wasn't a top 5 to 10 talent, right? I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing. And I think that he's got the tools, and he's shown a lot of traits, but he just hasn't put it all together yet, but he's getting there. I thought huge improvements from year 1 to year 2. Don't look at the stats. The stats lie, okay? Trust me, the numbers lie. The touchdown total lies. Go read the analytics. Go do the film breakdown. Go do some real deep diving, and you'll see there was a much improved quarterback playing for the Giants in 2020 as opposed to 2019. And I think in 2021, we'll see even more improvements.
Yeah, and you know, when it comes to Daniel Jones, like you said, the numbers are lying when it comes to the touchdown totals. Dwayne Gallman had 6 touchdowns between 0 and 5 yards from the end zone. You know, that just tells you Daniel Jones did the heavy lifting to actually get there. Dwayne Gallman just punched it in. So you could increase that number a couple points. You know, let's say that's 17. It's still not where we want it to be, but it's better. At the end of the day, the playmakers weren't there. Darius Slayton had a down year. Golden Tate, you know, he's washed. Sterling Shepard injured. He was injured a couple of games. They didn't really use him in the red zone very efficiently. Obviously, Saquon was out. A new offensive line for the most part with Cam Fleming, Matt Parrott, Andrew Thomas, Shane Lemieux. Will Hernandez got COVID. Matt Parrott got COVID. No Nate Solder. Kevin Seidler was the only continuity player there. Then you have Nick Gates, who actually did pretty well. He got better as the season progressed. But Daniel Jones didn't have much to work with for the 2nd consecutive season. With young quarterbacks, you really want to give them playmakers. You know, that's what makes them better. Give them talent around them to exercise their talent and really reach their potential. That's what we saw with Kyler Murray. They gave him DeAndre Hopkins. You know, they gave him some really good players, and he got better because of it. The Giants instead traded Odell Beckham Jr. and drafted Saquon Barkley the year before they got DJ. And as we know, Saquon, was injured a lot, so that didn't help DJ at all. And then Odell Beckham Jr. is gone, so they don't have a wide receiver one anymore. Now you have an opportunity. That's the number one thing this offseason, the number one reason why Daniel Jones can be the next Josh Allen of 2021 is that John Mara promised us. He made us a promise during his postseason press conference that they would be allocating resources toward the offensive unit. Now, when you say that, you have to mean it. We're going to hold him accountable if he doesn't do what he said he's going to do. And the management doesn't really go out and find the talent that they need to give Daniel Jones right now. Whether it be Curtis Samuel, whether it be Allen Robinson or Kenny Galladay, or anybody else, Corey Davis, mind you. So the NFL draft, obviously a really good opportunity for the Giants to either trade back, get a guy like Rashad Bateman, or go and get Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Kyle Pitts. There's going to be a ton of guys available, hopefully. And the Giants have an opportunity to upgrade this offense tremendously this offseason. If they don't, they're only going to doom Daniel Jones. The fact that Dave Gettleman invested the 6th overall pick in Daniel Jones to begin with says that he thought he had the potential. Now, if you don't give the guy you thought you had that potential the pieces to work with, you're pretty much writing your resignation letter. You cannot go on without fixing the offense. Otherwise, it's a fireable offense. Drafting a quarterback who has the traits that you believe in and then not giving him the pieces to work with, that is a fireable offense. This offseason, I would be incredibly surprised if they don't clear some cap space, find ways to get playmakers, and I think Dalvin Tomlinson is going to be the guy they have to release. They have to let walk to get it done. It's unfortunate, but I think that's just the most replaceable position of the free agents that are eligible to be retained by the Giants. I think they go after a guy like Curtis Samuel because that's the mid-tier level. I don't think they're going to land Galladay or Allen Robinson. They probably will both be franchise tagged. But Anthony, what do you think about this? Do you think improving his weapons is the number one concern and the number one priority for the Giants this offseason?
I absolutely do, but not even just the weapons. I think the offensive line as well needs to play better. Okay, so when we look at the Josh Allen situation, one thing that I'll say is getting that number one wide receiver was invaluable. It was huge for Josh Allen. Getting Stephon Diggs in that trade, that did so much for Josh Allen. Whatever they gave up for that, it paid off so many dividends. It was an amazing trade for Buffalo. The Giants need something similar. They need to find that number one wide receiver, somebody who Daniel Jones can rely on play after play after play, someone who's going to go for over 1,000 receiving yards and has the ability to top 10 receiving touchdowns in a season, has the ability, not necessarily does, but has the ability. That playmaking ability is so valuable. So when you know what? You mentioned the Saquon Barkley thing, right? They traded away Odell, then they ended up going with Saquon Barkley, right, as their number one playmaker. Well, there's a lot of reasons that you can agree or disagree with that whole thing. For me, a quarterback's number one best friend, probably a left tackle. Number two best friend, a wide receiver. Running back is probably comes after all the offensive linemen, and then two more receivers and the tight end, and then the running back. So the wide receiver is very important for the quarterback's development. At least through my eyes, that's what I see. Instant analysis. Go look at Kyler Murray, the strides that he took once he got DeAndre Hopkins, the strides that Josh Allen took once he got Stephon Diggs. Now let's just wait on Daniel Jones to get his guy, and let's see the strides that he takes. That will be the number one thing that helps him break out. I promise that. If he breaks out in 2021, it'll be because the Giants signed a guy like a Kenny Galladay, or drafted a guy like a Jalen Waddle, a Devonta Smith, or a Jamar Chase, or signed a guy even maybe on a lesser scale, right? Maybe they just get Curtis Samuel or Corey Davis, one of those guys that has a potential to become that number one wide receiver, but isn't there yet like Kenny Galladay already is, right? That is going to do so much for Daniel Jones once they get that playmaker, and Dave Gettleman and John Mara promised. They vowed to do it. They promised they would get that playmaker. So if they do not, I will be very upset, and I think all of you will too, and I think all of us collectively will be asking for Dave Gettleman to just step down, or praying that John Mara actually fires him if the Giants don't get that playmaker, because they promised it. It's clearly a necessity. They need it so badly, and if you go look at all of the statistics, the analytics, go dive into the PFF database and everything in between, all that stuff, you're going to see the Giants wide receivers just did not help Daniel Jones. They had, I think, the Giants had the 8th worst receiving grade in the league this year, according to Pro Football Focus, and they also had the 32nd ranked pass blocking grade. So when I say yes, they need to get that playmaker, it will be invaluable for the Giants. It will do so much for Daniel Jones. Let's not forget about that offensive line. He needs to be better protected. So if the Giants can at least just get up to that average, that's what we were saying with Chris the Entertainer the other day, if they can at least get to an average pass blocking, an average offensive line efficiency, that will help Daniel Jones infinitely as well. So those two things, yes, improving the playmakers, but really the whole core around him, improve all of it, and you'll see him get a lot better.
Yep, that's exactly right. The second portion of this, the second reason really, is the deep ball accuracy. Daniel Jones is a good deep ball passer. He had a 96.7 grade when he's throwing to the outside right, 20-plus yards downfield, 322 yards, a touchdown when he's throwing to the middle, 196 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then a 73.9 grade throwing to the left outside hash. So, throwing to the left side is his weakest point. His right side is the strongest. In the middle of the field, he's dominant. He's actually a very, very good quarterback when throwing to the middle, intermediate to deep portions of the field. And I think, the Giants need to utilize that more. That's what we're talking about, running a vertical offense, getting players who can push the field, have really good speed. Curtis Samuel, a lot of people think he's a slot guy. He can play outside. He played almost 200 snaps last year on the outside, played 400 in the slot, so he can do both. He has 4.3 speed. He can push vertically. If you go and get a guy like Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, they can push the field vertically. This is what we're talking about. When you push the field vertically, it opens up guys like Evan Ingram on underneath routes when you're running drags, hooks, Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. That is what happens if you're constantly running hook routes and just small drag routes, mesh routes, and just curls. You're gonna allow defenses to sit in the box and really contain everything. The problem is the offensive line needs to do their job. So I think that's really important. That's a major factor when we're talking about pushing the field vertically. You need to have the time to actually do it. Otherwise, it does not matter. I saw a name pop up just a couple hours ago, Taylor Morton, of formerly Carolina Panther, right tackle, one of the best pass blocking tackles in free agency. He might actually be a better guy to sign. Get rid of Dalvin Tomlinson, cut some dead weight. David Mayo, Levine Toilolo, Cody Core. There's a bunch of guys that they can clear with zero dead cap, which will be really, really beneficial for the Giants this offseason as they try to get under the salary cap. Get Taylor Morton, lower his cap hit, extend it over a couple of years. He's really young, really efficient in pass blocking, and then you solve that problem. Matt Parrott, screw it, make him a swing tackle, make him that depth piece. Develop him over a long-term period of time. Make him a guy that can come in. Maybe he's a better run defender, a run blocker. They can use him as a jumbo set in jumbo packages. Do creative things with Matt Parrott. Don't put all your chips on him because offensive line is really the necessity now. But when it comes to Daniel Jones and his deep ball accuracy, they need to be utilizing that more. Need to be pushing guys up the seams. We saw what they did in Week 17 against Dallas. Dante Pettis had a nice touchdown. That's when he really succeeded the most, when he was throwing downfield. Jason Garrett didn't do it enough, and even if the offensive line wasn't performing extremely well, at least take shots, at least try more often, because the Giants average 17.5 points per game, so who the hell cares anyway? Just go, push the field, try and push the secondary deep. It opens up the underneath routes too, which is even more beneficial. It goes hand in hand. So Anthony, what do you think about that? And then we'll have to dive into the third one pretty quickly.
Yeah, so talking about his deep throwing accuracy, the deep ball accuracy is something that I've been really harping on for a while. I know when we had that one live stream and someone came into the chat and said, oh, Daniel Jones can't throw the ball deep. Well, I went on about a 3-minute rant targeting that one person, and I had all the stats pulled up, and I totally demolished him, and the chat was lively about that. They thought it was hilarious. They thought it was awesome. It was a really fun time. Shout out Airborne Cheeseburger for, recording it or whatever. He was cool. So, shout out you guys. That was fun. But I've been banging on this drum for a minute now about Daniel Jones being a great deep ball thrower. And I'll throw out some stats right now because Pro Football Focus, if you didn't know, just released their 2021 quarterback annual. A lot of great stats to dive into there. I'll pull a few out of there for you guys. Passer rating, depth of target. Okay, so league average, he is below on every single one of these except 20-plus yards. He is below behind the line of scrimmage, below 0 to 9 yards, and below 10 to 19 yards. But 20-plus yards, he's so far above the league average passer rating. He has a 132.5 passer rating on passes 20-plus yards downfield, which is incredible. Now, here's some stats to show you that that's not being utilized enough in the Giants' offense. He had 43 deep passes this year, 20-plus yard passes, only 43. He had 54 the year prior, so somehow they didn't build on that. They utilized it less while he continued to get good at that trait, that skill. He had 20 deep completions, but his average depth of target this year was similar to the first year. It was an 8.4 in 2019, but it went down to an 8.0. So only 9.6% of his passes were deep, and that's compared to 11.8% the previous season. So for some reason, he's getting really good at throwing the ball deep, and he's doing it at a really high rate. But for some reason, Jason Garrett wanted to rein him in, make him more of a short intermediate system quarterback. that's where I don't understand things. That's where I don't really get the whole Giants offense. I think play these players to their strengths. Daniel Jones' strength is throwing the ball deep. I want to see that deep passing number go up. Only 43. I want to see that get to at least 60 or even higher. Like, let's get Daniel Jones winging the ball downfield. You mentioned it. There was a few plays against Dallas week 17 where he really made some great throws downfield. He really did it all season long. I think I could think of multiple Golden Tate touchdown passes downfield, which is the only time Golden Tate ever made plays was when Daniel Jones threw some dimes downfield, and then a few to Evan Engram as well. So really overall, and then here's one more statistic, 0 to 9 yards, that made up 60% of Daniel Jones' passes. 10 to 19 yards made up 20%. So overall, you're having 80% of his passes between 0 to 19 yards. Only 10% of them are 20-plus yards. 10% of them are behind the line of scrimmage. So really, that is such a small portion of the Giants' offense to throw the ball downfield. That needs to change in 2021. And if it does, if the offensive line improves, he has more time to throw downfield. Therefore, they're allowing themselves to push the ball downfield more. So if he does start throwing the ball downfield more, that touchdown total will definitely go up, and we'll start to look at him as a whole different player. I promise you, around the league, people will look at Daniel Jones as a big play threat, standing in the pocket, throwing the ball deep.
Yep, and that's exactly right. We need him to be doing more of that, but it also comes down to the scheme. As we keep referring to, and that's the third thing here. The second year in Jason Garrett's scheme should do him well, just because of the terminology, the verbiage, everything you need to know to actually understand an offensive system. I think having that second year will be beneficial for him, and that's really what it comes down to, just the continuity, the consistency, really incorporating new things into the scheme. They've laid the foundation. They've laid the basic concepts. Now they can build on top of them. But since we don't have much time here, we're trying to bust out videos every single day for you guys and get some really good content out. We're on a time restraint on some occasions. Anthony, I'm going to ask you pretty much a yes or no question. Do you think that this second year in this scheme is going to be the most important thing for Daniel Jones? Do you think it's going to be one of the top 3 factors? And do you think Jason Garrett can really get creative and really get it done, adding on to what the foundation he's laid already?
I don't know if it's going to be the most important factor. I don't think it will be, but it's going to be a huge factor determining either his success or his failure. Daniel Jones' success or failure is going to predicate on the scheme, in my opinion. Definitely he needs more playmakers. That's also going to have a huge part in it as well. But this scheme, like I said, it wasn't utilizing Daniel Jones' strengths last year. It could have been because the offensive line wasn't good enough to do that. Now, let's say in 2021 the offensive line improves drastically. Well, then I think you're going to see Jason Garrett open the scheme up more to have more vertical passing concepts and really start to utilize Daniel Jones to his strengths and use him as a much better player in general. So the scheme can definitely help. Maybe in year 2, they'll be more comfortable together. They'll open up the playbook more, and maybe they'll just have more pieces to work with, so then that'll open up the scheme more. So yeah, second year in the scheme can do a lot for him. But if the scheme does not change and it continues to be what it was last year and it does not utilize Daniel Jones' strengths, it could definitely hold him back once again, and we could definitely be sitting here in February of next year talking about what are the Giants doing with their first-round pick this year. Are they going to replace their quarterback? I think the scheme has a lot to do with the entire future of Daniel Jones' career, and it starts right away this season.
Yep, absolutely, guys. So let us know in the comments section on YouTube if you agree, if you think Daniel Jones can be the Josh Allen 2021. If these factors are accurate, please incorporate any other factors that you might think could be influential for Jones in 2021. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for the love on YouTube and the audio on iTunes and Spotify. So, as always, my friends, we will catch you guys on the next video.
TVSO.